Hey, it's Mrs. D, and I make videos about something students hate, doing research. I used to be one of those students and routinely phoned it in, until I had to teach it. So I set out on a quest, find a way to make doing academic research and writing research papers as painless as possible. I focus solely on MLA format and citations, so if you're looking for Chicago or APA style, I'm not going to be helpful. Maybe one day, but today's not looking so hot and tomorrow's not promising either. So, if you're ready, let's go on an MLA journey in research. Today's part of the journey: Hi, I'm Mrs. D, and this is Outlining and Preliminary Research. If I heard it once, I heard it a million times. In fact, I've even said it myself. I'd rather just jump right into my assignment rather than do an outline. I was the type that felt honor-bound to an outline. If I wrote it in a particular order, I had to stick to it no matter what. Thing is, my outlines were too detailed, with no wiggle room for new ideas. With that in mind, I gave my students a generic outline to follow. This allowed them the freedom to expand as they needed. This particular outline encourages students to think about their research paper in terms of making arguments, as one would do in a debate. This was especially helpful in the semesters they really did have to debate. I'm not talking about the shouting kind of arguments. I'm talking about the points you are making to prove your thesis. There's a scary word: thesis. Thesis statements are the bane of any beginning academic writer. Even more seasoned writers can struggle with thesis statements. A basic definition is your thesis is the overarching point you will then prove in your paper. One way to look at them is like this: I think my topic is important because of reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. While this makes thesis writing formulaic, it's a good way to help you structure it. As you get better at thesis writing, you can ditch the plug and play for something a little more refined. Let's make this template a little more specific. Let's go back to our topic of pollution and the effects on coastal ecosystems. What types of pollution occurs? What is being done to mitigate further pollution? Are you arguing for a particular type of prevention? What are the success rates of different methods? What can ordinary people do to combat this issue? Corporate entities? What are your thoughts about methods to combat pollution? Here is where doing preliminary research can be of great benefit. At this stage, you're not looking to save any of those sources. Though if you find something you think you'll use, it's a good idea to save it. Right now, just focus on a few keywords to see what pops up. A brief note on searching. This is the 21st century, and I'm not going to pretend that at this stage of the game your default search crutch is not Google. I use Google. I love Google. But it's not the only option you have at your disposal. I'll talk more about this later, but I just want to make you aware right now that limiting yourself to an internet search can be just that: limiting. So, what are the key words for a search about pollution and the effects of coastal ecosystems? Here's a few. Based on what you find, you can probably create a working thesis statement. This is like a rough draft of your thesis. It acknowledges that it needs some work, but will give you something to start with as you begin drafting your paper. Let's say you've decided that within the very broad category of pollution and the effects of coastal ecosystems, you are interested in looking into 3 of the above keywords or concepts. These are 3 easy talking points that you can not only assert your own contention, argument, but back up with credible research. Note: it can be hard at this stage to choose 3 talking points. This will be especially true if you're researching a hot-button issue. Limiting to 3 talking points does a couple things. 1, it will fit into a basic intro, body, conclusion format typical of most essays. Depending on your page length, you can easily add more talking points. 2, providing at least 3 points will give your overall argument, thesis, a more well-rounded and balanced approach. Think of it this way: have you ever been in an informal debate with someone whose biggest argument is, well, it just is, or something similar? Having multiple points will give your argument enough substance and show that as the researcher, you have taken the time to interact with the information out there. In my next video, I'll tackle the dreaded thesis statement in depth. Until then, happy researching! Thanks for joining me on this journey in MLA research. If If you have any questions, please leave something in the comments, send me an email at englishresearchmla@gmail.com, or send a tweet to @MLA Research Help. Like, retweet, share, and cite your sources.